Hello and welcome back. I'm Liz Booker, literary aviatrix, and I am talking with the author of 4 picture books, a book about nonfiction picture book writing, and many other books that she's going to talk about in this conversation. Kirsten W. Larson, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm so excited. We had a great conversation about all of your books, your picture books anyway, the 4 of them, including the one about E. Lillian Todd, which is what brought me to you, but Wonder Woman, our wonderful scientist who discovered what stars are made of, and then this great book, Reimagining Your Nonfiction Picture Book, a step-by-step revision guide. And I've had my head in that a little bit in the past couple of weeks, getting ready to talk with you, but also because I have some, projects that I'm working on that I'm excited about, and it's immediately relevant to me, whether it's for a picture book format or others. So, with all of that said, you told us a little bit about what sparked your interest in writing. You were inspired by children, your kids, and the books that you were reading with them. But how did you develop your craft? Tell us about that journey and
Yeah,
evolution for you.
sure. Yeah. So, I started, I joined in 2012, which is kind of when I started. I joined a picture book writing community called the 12 by 12 Picture Book Challenge. And that is the place where I started to learn about writing. I got connected with a critique group. I met a lot of other people and I kind of started studying. So, I read every craft book that was available at the time. I took classes and I just, there's no way to learn writing but to do it, right? And then get feedback. That's the way you have to learn. I do tell people that I am the slowest learner out of everybody. And I think what that created in me is I feel like I had to study things very deliberately and very carefully because storytelling maybe wasn't as intuitive to me as it is to some people. So I really had to become a student of it. And I think because I became a student of it, I collected so much information that I wanted to find ways to share it. So I've been teaching writing for a number of organizations, and Reimagining Your Nonfiction Picture Book grew out of a class that I used to teach for the Writing Barn about revising picture books. And so I just kind of wanted a place to I wanted to reach more people than I could with just the class. So that's how I came to write the book.
And were there, so you mentioned that you teach for the Writing Barn. Were there any
Mhm.
programs, and then you also mentioned the writers group, any other programs or organizations that you recommend to people who are aspiring to write nonfiction for children?
Yeah, so they're the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, SCBWI, is kind of our professional body. So I do a lot of webinars for SCBWI. They offer a lot of teaching. There is a great Facebook group called NF Fest. So that's NF as in Nonfiction Fest. February is kind of NF Fest month. And in February, they have like a whole month of posts on their website. And then there's a Facebook group for kind of ongoing support. Um, I teach with Inked Voices, which is another great community. And then, I've started teaching on my own platform as well. Just
Good
because
for you.
I could talk about nonfiction for kids all day long. So,
Oh, good for you. Yeah. Yeah, so you have this first book, which is The Wood, Wire, and Wings, and
Mhm.
so tell us about the publishing journey there, and then sort of what you're doing. And maybe we should back it up to these work for hire books that you were doing. Like, how did you get into that? Whatever came first. Talk about that.
So I started with writing picture books. I wrote fiction as well as nonfiction stories. But what I discovered for myself is it takes so long to write and revise these stories and then sell them. The fiction, they just weren't as sticky for me. I could work on them and then I just didn't feel as committed to getting those stories to publication. So I kind of pivoted pretty early into focusing on nonfiction. So I first wrote Woodwire Wings in 2014. I was kind of building up a body of work. It's actually the same year that I wrote the first draft of The Fire of Stars. Um, I was 2016, I was querying literary agents. My literary agent connected with Woodwire Wings and The Fire of Stars, which I sent both of those to her. Um, and so then, we were going out on submission with Woodwire Wings. It sold in 2017. But for those who are unfamiliar with how long crafting illustrated fiction or nonfiction takes for children, when you're doing illustrated books, it's at least, a 3-year journey is pretty quick these days because even once the book is acquired by an editor, you are spending time revising it. And then it's going through various stages of editing, and then it goes to your illustrator. And for an illustrator to craft 30 to 40 pages of this exquisite art takes at least a year.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you're traditionally published, the marketing for the book starts 6 months to a year before the book is released, when the publisher is out there trying to talk to bookstores and get bookstores to put it on their shelves before it comes out. So it's at least a 3-year process from the time that you're signing a contract until your book is on the shelf. So that was so for, by the time Woodwire Wings came out in 2020, I had written the first draft 6 years previously.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's not unusual. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not if you're doing traditionally published illustrated children's books.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so did this agent that you were working with got you this publisher, yes?
Mhm.
Both of these books to the
Yes.
same publisher. And then how did it work for the next 2 books that you wrote?
Yeah, so I mean it's a similar process. That I think actually we sold The Fire of Stars next, right? That was the next book that we sold.
Mhm.
But getting just the right illustrator took a long time. I mean, these very talented illustrators get booked, and they may tell you like, okay, we can do the book, but I can't get to it for a couple of years because I have all these other contracts.
Yeah.
So, fight if you're so they ask you, are you willing to hold out for this like amazing illustrator? And of course, my answer is always yes. So, yeah, so The Fire of Stars took longer. It actually sold before A True Wonder, but the journey for that book was a little bit longer. So, yeah, I mean, each time I sell a book, then most of the time I'm hoping to send my agent the next thing that she can then go out and try to sell.
And so A True Wonder, so you wrote that whole manuscript and chopped it. You didn't pitch it first.
No, so most of the time in children's picture books, unlike middle grade or young adult, you are writing the whole thing because picture books are a very specific medium. They're a very visual medium. The words and the pictures need to work together. So you have to think about, you're not telling the illustrator what to illustrate, but in your own mind, you have to think about, how are these words and pictures going to work together? You're writing with much more spare language. And it's very dependent on the page turns, for creating tension and moving readers through the book. So they're really their own unique medium. And so almost all of the time, an editor wants to see the full text. They will not buy it on proposal.
Mhm. Okay. And so you got all 4 of these books. Were they published by the same publisher?
No, no, every
No.
single one is from a different
Every
publisher.
Okay, so a whole different experience every time.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
how's that been for you?
It's fascinating to me because every publisher that I've published with is
Mhm.
so unique, and you can really see kind of where their expertise is and where their skill sets are. So, Woodwire Wings is with Calkins Creek, which is they're a small publisher, but they're very deep in nonfiction and historical fiction, almost exclusively in America, like
Mhm.
specifically America. And then they have these really deep, like curricular relationships and school library relationships. And so that's been fun to watch them continuously find new places to get the book, right? And
Yeah.
then Chronicle, the publisher for The Fire of Stars, that parallel story that we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
illustrated by Catherine Roy. I mean, Chronicle is really known for making these stunningly beautiful books, right? I mean, there's gold foil on the cover. Um, so for them, they are really focused on the art of the picture book. And again, they're a smaller publisher, but we've sold foreign rights into China, and I should have pulled it, but I have the copy of the Korean translation.
Oh,
So it's
cool.
been fun. And this one, and it's recently, I think it should be in Scholastic Book Fairs. I haven't seen the flyer, but it was supposed to be going into Scholastic Book Fairs. So again, it's kind of fun to watch all these different experiences. This is how is with Little Brown, which is a big five
Oh,
publisher, right?
yeah.
So I've been with that particular book, I've been able to have some fun publicity opportunities. Cornelia Lee and I recorded an interview with Crayola that's going to be out
How
in
fun.
November. So yeah, I mean, every book is its own journey. So it's just, it's just everything's different. It's fun.
That's exciting. That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, so then talk about what's in. So I've been, like I said, I've been enjoying this writer's guide for nonfiction picture books, and you said that this was sort of based on some courses. But give us the highlights. What are you giving us in this book?
Yeah, so I think my the two greatest things or conclusions that I've come to in nonfiction picture books, I think I come from the perspective of a journalist, right? I started in journalism. I worked in public affairs for NASA, so I wrote press releases and this sort of thing. And there are a lot of us who come to writing nonfiction for kids from this kind of journalism reporting background. We loved reading the encyclopedias, right? And so we come with a really facts first focus. And I think the big shift that I'm trying to get writers to make in this book is to think story first, right? I mean, in reality, the facts are important, but nonfiction picture books have back matter where we can put a lot more of the facts. So, really, writing a nonfiction picture book is about finding ways to connect emotionally with your reader. And a lot of times that comes from the character arc, just like you might have in a fictional book, right? So it's about watching, connecting with this character, connecting with their goal, connecting with their feelings as they struggle and fail, and watching them grow, and then being inspired from that. With some kind of, we're not moralizing, but most of the time there's something in these books that kids can take and apply to their own life.
Right.
Something about perseverance, something about how we can be heroes, something that connects with them. So it's really the book for me is about shifting from facts to feelings.
And so and talk briefly again about the prequel to this, which you mentioned in the last portion of our
Yeah.
interview that you're working on now. So what is that going to give us?
Yeah. So, I mean, this book, Reimagining Your Nonfiction Picture Book, is focused specifically on picture books. Um, but with, so it is presuming that that you have researched and written a nonfiction picture book. So in the prequel, I start with things like, how do we get story ideas? How do we pick? If we have a list of story ideas, what's the process that we can go to kind of prioritize which one we might want to work on? And then how do we figure out who's the right audience for that? What's the right age level? How do we do research? Right? So it's kind of backing up, and it's not exclusive to picture books. So, the advice in that book works if you're writing middle grade, if you're writing young adult. I do have a middle grade graphic novel coming out someday. That's been a very long journey. So I've written more nonfiction besides just picture books. So I wanted to kind of tell a little bit bigger story.
Oh, okay. I'm excited to hear about this middle grade graphic
Graphic
novel.
novel. Yeah.
That's exciting. So when will that come out?
That is a darn good question. It's being
Okay.
illustrated right now. So it's called Light of Resistance. It is the true story of Rose Valland, who was a French curator in World War II in Paris, in Nazi occupied Paris. She spied on the Nazis throughout the war as they stole all kinds of art from Parisian Jews, and she figured out where it was getting sent so that it could be recovered. And so I had started that book. I had written it as a picture book because that's my area of expertise. And the feedback I kept getting was, this is a really hard story to tell without the context for a picture book audience. Your voice is sounding a little middle grade. And then I have this lovely editor who said, how would you feel about trying this as a graphic novel? And I'm like, sure, let's do it. So, I rewrote it as a graphic novel script, and it's currently being illustrated by Caldecott medalist Barbara McClintock. So,
Oh,
um,
cool.
yeah, this will be her first graphic novel. So it's our first graphic novel for both of us. So it's been a learning curve.
Interesting. Well, I can't wait to see that one too. And you did mention that you were solicited, hired to write educational books. What's the right term for
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can call them educational books or school and library nonfiction,
School and
either
library.
way.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think part of it is I'm kind of like an instant gratification person. And if you haven't noticed, the trade publishing journey for illustrated nonfiction is very long.
Yes.
And so, probably about 2014, as I was building up my body of work to submit to an agent, um, I was just feeling like I wanted, I'm calling myself a writer, but I wanted something to show for it. So I started writing children's magazine articles, and then I used those before they were published. I used the unedited pieces to put a package together, which I sent out to educational publishers. So it's kind of like an audition. You send a resume, you send a cover letter saying what you would be willing to write. You send them your unedited clips, and then they say, "This is great. We'll let you know when we have a writing assignment for you." And so they did. So they did. And so then and they are typically, like I said, they're written in series. You have to be very controlled with your language because typically you're writing for a specific reading level. And then each series has its own conventions. You have to write so many words on this page, and the chapters are this long, and etc. So those are fun. I think I did about 20 books. But then I got to the point to research and write them, it moves very quickly. I mean, you may have a month to research and write a book. And I found that I was having less and less time to work on my own work. And that is where I really wanted to focus. So eventually, especially as I got closer to selling my own books, or I started selling my own books, I let that piece go because I just didn't have time for it.
Oh, well, that's fascinating. Thanks for talking about
Yeah.
it. Were you able to be selective about what they offered you, or it's like take it or leave it?
Yeah. So no, this particular aspect of the market, it's what's called work for hire contracts. So
Mhm.
I don't have the copyright to the book. The publisher holds the copyright, and the way that those contracts are often structured is it's a flat fee.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much, if you're not willing to take it, they have a bunch of resumes and they will just go to the next person.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, is there anything else you want to talk about writing, or any advice that you have for people who are making their way?
Yeah, I mean, we all start somewhere. I tell people it took me longer than anybody to figure out how to do this, which is why I find it such a joy to support newer writers. So there are so many stories that need to be told. that we haven't told yet. And so anybody who is remotely interested in writing true stories for kids, I just want them to go for it. And the best way to do it is just to go to the library or go to the bookstore and read what's being published right now. Study whatever age category you want to write for. Um, Take some classes and then just do it. You just have to get the
Yeah.
words on the page and then we can revise.
That's right. Well, Kirsten, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and for all of the work that you've done to tell these stories. I can't wait to see the ones that come later.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz. It's been a joy.